In a silent courtroom in Atlanta, a young black woman stood trembling as a white judge raised his brow, disbelief written across his face. She had just claimed she could speak 9 languages. The courtroom erupted in laughter, jurors, lawyers, even onlookers snickering under their breath. 9 languages? The judge repeated mockingly. You expect us to believe that? But what happened next silenced the entire room. The same people who mocked her would soon be on their feet. Not in ridicule, but in awe. By the end of that day, the courtroom would never forget her name, nor the lesson she taught about pride, prejudice, and brilliance that defies expectation. Aisha Williams grew up in a small apartment on the east side of Atlanta, a place where dreams rarely reached the sky. Her mother worked double shifts as a cleaner, while her father, a soldier, had been deployed overseas most of her childhood. Books were her only friends, words her only escape. At age 6, she could already speak English and Spanish. By 12, she'd taught herself French and Arabic from old library books. At 16, she was fluent in Mandarin and Swahili. Language became her superpower, her bridge to the world she longed to touch. But brilliance doesn't always protect you from judgment. After finishing college on scholarships, Aisha applied for a prestigious interpreter's position with the federal court system. It was her chance to prove herself. Yet, from the moment she walked in, with her natural curls and second-hand suit, eyes followed her, questioning her competence. The senior judge, Edward Whitman, a stern white man in his 60s, barely glanced at her resume before smirking. 9 languages? He said. That's ambitious. She smiled politely. Yes, sir. He frowned. We'll see about that. The test was set for the following week, in front of the full courtroom. What was supposed to be a fair assessment became a public spectacle. And Aisha knew, deep down, that this wasn't just about her ability. It was about proving she belonged. When Aisha entered the courthouse that morning, her hands shook, but her heart burned with determination. The corridors were lined with portraits of past judges, all white, all male. Her heels echoed on the marble floor like a heartbeat, steady but fragile. Inside the courtroom, cameras were rolling. Local news had caught wind of the linguistic prodigy being tested by the federal bench. To them, it was entertainment. To Aisha, it was everything she had fought for. Judge Whitman sat high on his bench, expression cold. Ms. Williams, he began, today you will be tested on your claim. You stated on your application that you are fluent in 9 languages. Please demonstrate your gift. His tone dripped with condescension. Aisha nodded. Of course, Your Honor. A translator from the district staff handed her a list of languages. Spanish, French, Arabic, Mandarin, German, Swahili, Russian, Italian, and Korean. The judge leaned back, arms folded. Proceed. She began with Spanish, her voice smooth, confident, describing a childhood memory of her mother's cooking. Then French, fluid, poetic, effortlessly graceful. The courtroom murmured, surprised by her fluency. But when she switched to Arabic, her tone deepened with elegance and reverence. One of the interpreters in the room, a Middle Eastern man, nodded in approval. Mandarin followed. Crisp, precise, each syllable flawless. Still, the judge interrupted. Anyone can memorize a few sentences, he said dryly. Try translating this. He handed her a thick legal document in multiple languages, complex, technical, intentionally difficult. Aisha took a breath. For nearly 20 minutes, she read, translated, and explained every paragraph, moving effortlessly between languages like a dancer between steps. The crowd was stunned into silence. But Whitman wasn't done. Tell me, he said, why would a girl from the projects need 9 languages? Seems excessive. Aisha lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes. Because the world never spoke mine, she said softly. The silence that followed was thick with realization. Still, some murmured skepticism lingered in the audience. That's when fate intervened. A sudden commotion at the courtroom entrance. A man had collapsed, clutching his chest. Paramedics rushed in, but one of them, a foreign nurse, was panicking, unable to communicate. Aisha darted from her seat, translating between the nurse and the emergency team in Korean and English seamlessly. Within minutes, the man was stabilized. The courtroom watched in stunned disbelief. As the ambulance left, Judge Whitman stood frozen. The same woman he had mocked just saved a life in front of him. Not with a weapon, not with power, but with her mind. He cleared his throat. "Ms. Williams," he said quietly, "return to your seat." The once skeptical attorneys and jurors now looked at her with newfound respect. The silence that had once carried laughter now carried awe. The judge picked up her file again, his hands trembling slightly. "Fluent in 9 languages," he murmured. "And you've proven it, not just with words, but with action." Aisha sat calmly, her face glowing not with pride, but relief. Years of doubt, of whispers that she didn't belong, all washed away in that moment. Whitman finally looked up. "You remind me," he said slowly, "that sometimes the people we underestimate the most are the ones who teach us who we are." Then, in a rare act of humility, he stood from the bench and applauded. One by one, others followed. Lawyers, jurors, reporters. The entire courtroom rose to their feet. Aisha's eyes welled with tears. For once, she didn't have to speak. Her silence spoke louder than any language ever could. The next morning, headlines swept across the country. Black linguist silences court with 9-language fluency and humanity. She was offered the interpreter's position immediately, but Aisha chose a different path. Instead, she founded an international foundation to teach underprivileged kids languages for free, to show them that knowledge is the greatest equalizer. Months later, at a national award ceremony, Judge Whitman stood beside her, presenting her with the Humanitarian of the Year award. His words were brief but sincere. "Ms. Williams taught me that intelligence has no color, and respect needs no translation." The audience erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. But Aisha wasn't thinking about fame. She was thinking about her mother, the woman who once told her that every language she learned was another door she'd never have to beg to enter. As she walked off the stage, a journalist asked, "Aisha, what would you say to those who doubted you?" She smiled softly. "Doubt is a language I stopped learning long ago." The screen fades to black as her voice echoes. For every person ever told they were too much or not enough. Remember, your worth isn't defined by who believes in you, but by how much you believe in yourself. Then, in white letters against a black screen, knowledge speaks every language. Prejudice speaks none.